to present to you some important comments on specific sectors. Each day we're going to pick up one sector and tell you what the fundamentals are as of end of 2016 and how things are poised for 2017. It's called Three Wise Men, and we have three wise men to kickstart our discussion on the consumer durable space. Our wise men are Thiagarajan, Joint Managing Director of Blue Star, Rabindra Nayak of Dolat Capital, and Prakash Diwan, our Marketwala and of course of Altamount Capital. Good morning to all three of you gentlemen. Well, let me start with a man whose money is where his mouth is, Mr. Thiagarajan. How has this quarter been, Mr. Thiagarajan? How much lower, if at all, compared to Q3 of last year and compared to Q2?
Good morning. Thank you for talking to me. This morning I saw you talking about the market should cool down and how the temperatures are. And after a very fantastic festival season, we continue to be doing well. There was a bit of a hiccup in the month of November, and it continues in December with regard to the secondary movement. But I do not anymore worry about the demonetization as an issue at all. So it is something that happened, and the markets are trying to cope with much more in tier 3, 4, 5 markets than tier 1 and 2. And on the whole, we should end the year. First, I'm talking about the market. The total air conditioners market should still show a growth of somewhere around 15% at the backdrop of good summer, and we would have grown anywhere between 25 to 30%. So that is no longer the issue at all, demonetization. Okay. On the other hand, I will be concerned about the GST.
Okay. Go ahead, sir, your concern.
Yeah, the first uncertainty is whether it is going to be April 1 or July 1. It more appears to be July 1. We are worried about the transition rules. We are now reconciled to the fact that the rate may as well be 28%. And all of us, including you, are worried about some other cess will be there, not there. In any case, the price of the air conditioners should go up anywhere between 2.5% or so. And the contrary to the view that this GST will boost the GDP by 2%, I don't think in the short term anything is going to happen. Some sectors will benefit, some sectors the prices may be going up. So I think the air conditioner prices will be somewhere between 2.5 to 2 to 2.5% price increase is very likely as and when the GST happens. If it is not going to happen during the summer season, which means from April 1, it is quite likely the markets behave in such a manner that buy the air conditioners before GST comes into effect. Okay. And I have seen consumers and the dealers behaving that way. Therefore, the summer sales can be good. And we will see some kind of hiccup during implementation because of the transition rules, where some goods suffered the old SENVAT, some goods suffered the state VAT, and how these all will be treated, the clarity is yet to emerge. And therefore, I see July to September period to be, which I think we can cope with in order to prepare for a better festival season.
Okay, Mr. Thiagarajan, 1 minute. Sir, so 1 minute. So what was your number? You said third quarter you grew by 15%. Compared to what in Q2 and previous Q3?
No. I have not yet stated anything about Q3 growth. I only indicated year end, the market should grow by around 15%. We should be growing anywhere between 25 to 30%.
YOY.
Q3 numbers, yeah, that is right. Q3 numbers are yet to be in hand, but in terms of primary sales, I am not seeing any major impact that is happening at this moment. There was a problem between November 8th and November end, but the markets are beginning to cope with demonetization. I do not want to discuss what the exact number will be for Q3. All that I can tell is that it is not a very major impact I am seeing due to demonetization.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get the other participants into the discussion as well. We have Rabindra Nayak who joins in, and Prakash Diwan also. Both of them track the sector. Rabindra, thanks for joining us. You know, the stocks like Blue Star and Whirlpool have done pretty well relatively this year. I mean, if you look at Blue Star's performance, it's still up almost 15% for the year. Whirlpool is up almost about, 35% in 2016. Do you get a sense that this degree of outperformance could continue in the next calendar year as well? And what are your thoughts on how long-term investors should approach it?
Good morning. We are positive on the sector per se. The demonetization will have a near-term impact on the sales, particularly on the secondary sales. If you see in the quarter, the demonetization they have, it has come in. It is normally weakest quarter for all the durables. So we remain positive on the sector from the long-term perspective.
Okay.
Okay, it may be a weak quarter for air conditioners because it's winter, but Prakash, is it a weak quarter for consumer durables per se? What are your thoughts of how 2016 would have ended?
Yeah, so Lata, more importantly, you need to look at what do existing shareholders do and what do potentially new investors do. So to begin with, this is probably, I'm glad you've chosen this as the first sector to discuss the impact for next year, because this is the sector along with automobiles that's in the maximum state of flux. Look at the headwinds. You have demonetization and its medium to long-term impact, which is unknown. You have the GST implementation and its impact, which is still a question mark. And the third thing is there is possibility of a silver lining to these two dark clouds in the form of a budgetary largesse being announced for the rural or probably the semi-urban segment as well. You know, now what does happen to capital goods when, let's say, there is more money in the pocket of potential buyers or consumers? That means that the lower end consumer goods, white goods would start seeing a lot of traction. So it's not necessarily air conditioners, but it's companies selling washing machines, microwaves. Those are the ones that will start seeing an uptick post the budget. And if the budget is liberal enough for people to be left with so much of money. But my sense is, or the run-up that we've seen in some of these companies has been more because of the low liquidity profile most of these players have on the stock market. And that could see a little bit of easing out. So for long-term investors, Jan, Feb, March would, or probably Jan would be an ideal time to start looking at adding into the portfolio. But existing investors don't need to panic, is what my way of looking at this whole thing is. And especially, you'll have to be very stock specific now. The sector as a whole, you can't paint it with a single brush. You know, there are different players, different business models, different margin profiles. So what Mr. Thiagarajan said, they are agnostic to demonetization and its potential impact because everybody believes it's a short-term blip. But you could have air conditioners making a comeback only post the second quarter. So those things will have to be kept in mind as we go along.
I just want to get a perspective, slightly longer term perspective on this. Mr. Thiagarajan, you did mention that for FY17, the air conditioner industry will grow about 15%. But can you look a little bit far out? What about calendar year 2017 or even FY18 for that matter? What kind of growth do you see for the industry and for your company?
I've always maintained this room air conditioners is like playing T20 cricket. It is that 60-day window. If some rain happens, hailstorm happens, things can. But on the whole, I think the market will grow by 15%, basically because of the penetration levels. See, we are still below 4% or so. It's a very, very small market size compared to many other markets. And the car owners not possessing air conditioners itself is very large. So therefore, I would still believe that the market has the potential to grow by 15% in calendar year 2017. And just now it was mentioned that the rural agricultural middle class, if they are going to be looked after by the policy measures of the government, given the fact that already 60% of the sale is happening in tier 3, 4, 5 markets, I think it will do well. I am I would term 2017 as an optimistic year, but it is going to be very challenging as well because we have to cope with. Every morning we wake up with some sudden announcement, right? That capital gains tax one day, GST one day, and we are bit burdened with day-to-day reactions to many things that are happening, unfolding.
Okay.
But still, the market should grow. That's
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I take your point about growth, sir. I don't think with India, growth is an issue. It is the pace of growth that we are discussing. You know, before demonetization, when we had spoken to you, you said the industry will grow 15%. Now, will you trim a little for FY17? And will FY18 be less than or better than the pace of growth for FY17?
I am again repeating this. The FY17 demonetization effect for the whole industry should be some 2 to 2.5%. That's about all.
Okay.
It is the GST which will determine the way forward, according to me, and the forex rate, how rupee and dollar are going to move. These two things I will watch. And China, if it is going to be finding US market difficult, whether they will end up slashing the prices, and in which case China as a manufacturing destination may become attractive again. Okay. So these are the factors I would worry about, no longer about demonetization.
Fair point, sir. We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Well, Rabindra, very quickly, which stock would you buy?
We are positive on these two stocks, Whirlpool and Blue Star. Blue Star for its new product launches and Whirlpool for the strong balance sheet. Going ahead, we remain positive on these two stocks.
Right. Prakash?
I think I would add IFB to my buying list, given the kind of softness that we've seen in the stock. Of course, Blue Star continues to be a category leader of sorts, but I would avoid a lot of the stocks which we've been talking very positively, like Lloyd and all, and Whirlpool, notwithstanding the brave, phase that we've seen, in terms of the 2020 sales target and all. But IFB and Blue Star probably stand out at dips to be bought.
Okay, gentlemen, thanks a lot for joining us. And this is the first of our new segment, Three Wise Men. We will try and analyze